everyone, and welcome to another Tern Heads video. If you're new here, my name is Sam and I'm the founder of Tern Heads, a platform dedicated to helping emerging creatives to showcase their work, access relatable career content, and ultimately secure their first job in the creative industries. So if you're thinking about becoming a full-time creative and you want to hear more about creative job roles directly from those who have been in your shoes, then head over to turnheads.com and sign up now for free. In today's video, I'll be talking to Sam and Mae, two best friends who launched a company called Eric in order to address the dull and uninspiring career advice they received during their own school experiences. Eric started out by hosting their own career fairs and recently shifted into a curated career platform where they've done the searching for you and have found the best career advice from across the internet and brought it all into one place so that young people can get what they need on demand, with Tern Heads being one of their content creators. So at the moment, Gen Z spend on average 5 hours a week searching for career content, and 65% of students in primary school today will end up in jobs that don't even exist yet. So we wanted to discuss the biggest career problems for Gen Z in 2021. Hi Sam and Mae, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. And I thought it would be a really good start basically to just, if you could give us a little bit more background about how you guys know each other and just how you kind of started Eric and explain sort of what it stands for.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us, Sam. So I'm Sam and this is Mae, whichever side she's on. So we've actually known each other for like decades now. So we've been best friends since we were 8 years old. So we go way back at school. We now run a business together. It's called Eric, which is obviously, it says it on a t-shirt. Eric came about basically because Mae and I had really rubbish career advice when we were at school. It was awful. And so we just basically had enough of bad career advice and we wanted to, connect young people to better career advice. Mm-hmm. So that's what we've been doing for the last 4 years, but we used to run kind of career events. But now we've just launched an app which is, basically we've pulled together all of the best career advice from across the internet and categorized it so that young people can find what they want whenever they want it.
Fantastic. And what does Eric stand for?
Mae, I'll let you take that one.
So Eric kind of stands, it's an acronym. So it's basically like the journey or the process that we want our community to go through. So it stands for empower, represent, immerse, create.
So in your experience then, what do you think Gen Z want in a career now?
Yeah, great question. So we know that there's some research done a while ago and it said something along the lines of 70% of 16 to 18-year-olds want to get a job in the creative industries, but then that rapidly depletes as they kind of go past school and into kind of, I guess, the working world or university. So it is very obvious that young people want kind of, even if it's not necessarily actual creative jobs, they want jobs that will give them some sort of creative leeway. The reality is pretty much all jobs do that. Every job entails creative thinking. We think that's what young people want. They want the ability to be creative in whatever shape or form that takes. And that is always overlooked. Job descriptions are always so kind of, they pare down the creativity, they pare down the exciting bits of it, and they kind of list out more boring bits. But actually, that's not what young people want. And so that's what we think young people want.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think a lot of the problem is probably that when you're in school and when you're even in college and things like that, and I think in society in general, creative careers are kind of, they're not really seen as a career. They're seen as something like fun that's nice to do that you're not really going to make any money out of. The kind of creativity as a business is not really explained or gone into. And I think that's why, both our platforms are kind of trying to rectify that, which is great. And so how are people kind of finding their kind of internships and job roles at the moment?
Wow, I mean, there's kind of the standard ways of looking for jobs that I guess everyone knows of, which is like, job boards, or like if you're at school or uni, listening to teachers, or like, university portals. I don't know. But that's the thing. I think there is not one answer. Like, people still scramble to know where to go, what to find. And actually, I think sometimes everyone focuses too much on getting a job, or like getting into industry, getting work experience, getting all of this, where actually there's a whole gap before that, which we think is really important, obviously, is the advice section, the education section, because how do you know what job to go for if you don't know what jobs are out there, and you don't know what industries exist? And I think that's like one of the major things that we realized, Eric, is that young people actually don't know, and like I didn't know what like the options were, and especially when it comes to your career as well. I do think our parents' generation, they did have one career, and like you did actually have to choose one career and stick with it for the rest of your life. But today, in this like kind of modern world, you actually can have like 15 different careers if you wanted. And so I think we just need to catch up with what like careers are available and kind of the modern world today. And that's what young people should be taught. But yeah, sorry, I can't remember what your question that was.
No, I again, totally agree. I think it's understanding that people have so many transferable skills, don't they? And especially in creative roles, you can go into so many different sectors. They all use the kind of base kind of line of skills, a lot of them. And as Sam said, the whole creative thinking, that's kind of fundamental to many, many different job roles and career paths and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's just kind of highlighting that to young people, isn't it, along the way, so that they realize that they do actually have this scope in front of them that they can kind of experience and experiment in. And I'm a big advocate for kind of internships for that reason. It's kind of like going in, kind of dabbling into these different businesses to find out what kind of creative you want to be, or what kind of place you want to work in, and what clients you want to work for, is really important, because it's really hard to just come out of college or school or whatever and just think, okay, I want to do this, and just stick with it for the rest of your life. Like, it's quite daunting.
Yeah, it's nuts. I always think it's so bizarre. Like, I interviewed someone ages ago about the education system, and they just made such a good point. They were like, why do we front end absolutely all of the decision making about the rest of your life? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, the idea at the age of 16 that you're kind of like choosing subjects that then define what you're going to do at the age of 60 is ridiculous. Like, it is ridiculous. And and then there's so much emphasis, obviously, like the A-level results have come out, and for this year, and the amount of pressure that would have been put on those students, that being like, these will define the rest of your life, this is what you're like, if you don't get into the uni course, that if that's what you're going to do, if you want to go to uni, if you don't get into that uni course, if you don't get the grades, then what are you going to do with your life? Like, the pressure is absurd. And the reality is that, yeah, like, I guess, as May says, in this day and age, you can meander as much as you want. And to your point, because the skills are so transferable, like, I think what's so interesting, the areas that we focus on are the creative industries and the tech industry as well. You cannot have tech without creativity. But you cannot, like, the creative industries and the tech industry are basically just kind of like hybrids of each other at this point. And I think that's so interesting, like the mindset, the skill set, the like requirements that you need in order to be able to work in those kind of companies, in those industries, are transferable, and also, like, most of the time not degree required. So anyway,
and we're future proofing, because the jobs that don't even exist yet will all be like creative focused, I guess, because robots will replace all of the other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, robots can only be creative to a certain point, so
Exactly.
hopefully they can't take those jobs.
Exactly.
And how have you kind of experienced the kind of the flip side of it, or speaking to employers as well about, how do they attract Gen Z to their job roles that they're kind of advertising?
Well, it's interesting because I think with companies, they just think that they think they know what they're doing, if that makes sense. Like they're just like, okay, where are all the young people? Oh, they're on Instagram, so we're just going to make an Instagram account. But then I think they don't quite understand like the reason why Instagram is so popular, and it's really hard to build a community on Instagram. Do you know what I mean? Like I think we see companies now and they're spending so much money on that. But what we want, you know, companies to basically see is that there are so many, I guess, like micro influencers or content creators who exactly know how those platforms work, how social media works, how young people think, and that they should be aligning themselves with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just see so many of our, like, they kind of want a quick fix, I think, which is totally understandable because, you know, they just want to do their job in the end of the day, and like the recruiters just want to find people.
Yeah.
But I think they are actually in the long term probably not doing anything efficient. Like they could spend their money and time more efficiently.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that's kind of their biggest bugbears is the whole time thing, just the time investment that it takes to attract the right people? I mean, recruitment's like a long, drawn out, often quite expensive process anyway, isn't it? And now if you're having to kind of effectively learn about a whole new platform in the process, I can understand that that's going to be quite frustrating.
Oh well, yeah, it's time, resources, but yeah, like you said, I think it's just learning it's change. I don't think they like change, and I think that's definitely something that we've learned, is that Eric is quite a new concept. So some of the partners that we work, like some of the employees that we work with, they are like the contacts that we have, you can tell that they are risk takers as individuals, so that they're always trying to do new things. Whereas I think it's definitely harder for some of the more traditional like thinkers to really like get them to, you know, try something new.
It's so funny. I do think like we're at this really interesting moment in time, just on that point of like the risk takers versus the dinosaurs. Like we're at this really interesting moment in time where basically like we have a generation who have like grown up just like having ads thrown at them all the time, like constantly being on their phones, constantly being on technology. And so therefore like, you know, like new businesses have cropped up like to appeal to that generation, and the way that they operate, because that generation behaves so differently, the way that those businesses operate are just completely different to the businesses that were targeting like us as millennials, because we didn't have, you know, the same behaviors. We didn't actually grow up with technology. And it is absolutely fascinating. Like every single industry has some sort of extreme disruptor in it. Like I always use this example because I just think it's fascinating. Like even the milk industry, like Oatly, do you know what I mean? Like even the milk industry has a disruptor in it that is like a competitively, creatively branded company. And like the reason that they're doing that is because they're appealing to the mindset of a completely different generation. They are phenomenally successful because they've identified that, you know, they as a business need to pivot. They need to look different. They need to be consumer branded. They need to be creative, and they also need to take extreme risks. And like, they want to use service providers that reflect their ethos. So like we as a provider, as a service, like as Eric, we're actually appealing to that kind of company, that kind of mindset. Someone described them the other day as like the Fortune 500 of like, you know, 10 years time. And that is true. Like every industry will have a completely different new company taking that place, you know, of a dinosaur in the FTSE 500. And I just think it's so interesting. Like, to Mae's point, like we definitely have, you know, there are two types of companies now. Like it's not the creative and the corporate, because that is hybrid now. Like every company is a hybrid. It is the dinosaurs and the innovators. Like that's the definition. Those are the two categories that people fall into, or the companies fall into.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of feel like one good thing to come out of COVID in a way is that it has really thrust businesses and forced them to work online and kind of come out of their comfort zone really, really quickly. learn how to use these kind of video conferencing calls and move into this online space, which they perhaps otherwise would never ever have done, or it would have taken them months or years to do so. So yeah, I mean, I really, really hope that does kind of open up flexibility, innovation, and also kind of the job market as well, because I really, really hope that it allows people to be able to work remotely all over the world, and kind of, people will be having maybe those more desirable lifestyles much more quicker in their career paths than they otherwise would have done beforehand.
Exactly. Yeah, it will. Exactly. In every way, it's catering to the Gen Z mindset of being like, no, I want to be able to do what I want when I want, which makes sense. Like, there's no reason why not to think that.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, are there any tips you would give to companies that they could maybe do, like thinking, I don't know, starting small? Are there any little tips that you could give them to help improve their recruitment of Gen Z?
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely one, I think, instead of like reinventing the wheel, that, they can work with content creators who actually know what they're doing. So definitely stop creating their own content, because a lot of it is a little dry. But I think it comes down to the education piece again. Like, I think companies always do something at the last minute. So like when they have a job opening, or when they have an opportunity, that's when they actually start like actioning stuff. But if they just started a little bit before and actually started educating people on their industry, what their roles are, what their culture is like, they can actually then have a bigger pool of talent to recruit from later on. So I think maybe just like stop, I know, which is hard, but like stop thinking right at the last minute and see if you can do some more like actionable things a bit earlier on.
Yeah, so you'd say like a lot of the kind of behind the scenes content is quite good, because it shows you what it's really like to work for them as well.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not like scrambling to like find people at the last minute and then probably don't hire someone right. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whereas like actually if you can inspire more people, then you'll just have better talent to pick from.
Yeah, absolutely. And so because you guys used to kind of, you used to host these kind of career fairs as well, where you started off because they were so super boring, and they really were, and there wasn't really anything there for creatives specifically as well. And sometimes, even at university level, because the majority of creative companies are small businesses and startups, even if they do come along to your university career fair, they're only going to be able to hire like one person a year, or whatever it is. So how have you kind of injected that fun into the events that you run?
Yes, career fairs excessively boring, and there was nothing out there for the creative industries. Like, actually we were, and I feel like this isn't too much of a boast to say it, but we were pioneers in the creative career fair. So I will claim that. So now there are quite a lot of the, events out there for careers in the creative industry. So that's amazing. And we're not in that space anymore. But yeah, we made them fun basically by, I guess, we used to call them festivals. So they very much had like a festival vibe. We would hold them in creative spaces, so that like as soon as you walked into the venue, you were in like, I guess, immersed in the creative industries in some way. We would decorate like the entirety. May and I spent like literal days decorating these spaces. But when it came to the actual content, we organized the events in the way that we would have wanted to go to them when we were younger. Like, literally, it was just like designed for us when we were younger. So we had like young people on stage talking about how they'd got their job, their internship that they were currently doing, or the junior role that they got last year. So it's like relevant information. We had influencers, career influencers and activists coming down being like, this is what equal rights are in the workplace. This is how you can, I guess, kind of stand out from the crowd. This is how you can think outside of the box and get to where you want to go. Like motivational speakers, like all of this kind of stuff. And then like the actual, we had experiences at the events as well. Like, I am obsessed with immersive like experiences. At one point, I did manage to convince Mae to do an immersive theatre experience, which she was very skeptical about. But we would like literally immerse people in what it is like to work in those industries. So like, for example, we did a publishing event all about how to get into the publishing industry, and people could record their own audiobooks. Like, it's like a very experience-led event, and that's why people loved it. Also, there was loads of free stuff, so people loved that bit as well.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. And are you still doing those as part of the app, or is it all kind of moved into an online space now?
Yeah, it's all moved into an online space now. We are planning on reviving the events at some stage, but that won't be for a while because it will be like a kind of marketing thing. But yeah, we do miss the events, you know, like we miss, they were huge as well, like 500 people at least. And so we miss having like, you know, massive events. But then I guess afterwards we'd always feel like almost like we've been hit by a train. So I don't miss that feeling that much.
Well, if the app does well, then like, you know, it makes sense to maybe do like a festival with everyone, for everyone on the app and like all of the companies. So yeah, it would be amazing to like revise them later down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a big gathering once a year, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And more just like for fun. Do you know what I mean? Like,
what's been your biggest learning curves throughout this whole process, would you say? And it can be anything. So it can be about, you know, your own personal learning curves about the industries, employability, education versus industry, you know, anything.
Oh my God, where to start?
Yeah, there's so much.
we say that running a business is like 6 months, like I guess extreme immersions in like a topic. Like you just have like 6 month projects, right? Don't you? So like the latest one for us has been investment, but I think like personal journeys, we've been on huge self-development journeys, and actually so much so that it's a large part of the app. We actually want other people, we want to encourage other people to, I guess, like have the same experience that we've had when it comes to learning about ourselves. And so we actually have a section for that on the app. But yeah, like I'd say our biggest journey has definitely been, well, for me, I don't know about you, Maz, but like, I guess learning about ourselves, like learning what makes us happy. And then I guess kind of like finessing what our end goals are. And I guess what our kind of fulfillment and purpose is. That sounds really wishy-washy, but it's quite a big thing for us.
Yeah, no, definitely great. I think like everything takes way longer than you think. I mean, Sam and I have been working together for 7 years. Like it's a long time. And I think it's trying not to think too much about like the end goal, because it always moves, you know, the goalpost always moves. So it's just trying to like enjoy the journey, which is wishy-washy as well. But like with the app, you know, I think like we told you, Sam, that we were meant to launch this time last year. It's been like a year, and like we're still, you know, like building it and like doing so much. So I think we've just learned so much, but we love it. And like we always say that if we're not learning, then it's just like we're not enjoying it. Like we enjoy it when we're learning new things. So yeah, that's definitely like a challenge, because I think sometimes you do have those days, you know, when it is like hard and it's difficult and you're like, oh God, why are we doing this again? But yeah, I think we're so lucky to obviously be best friends and work together. But yeah, it's taken a lot personally, like, you know, like discovering things, how to work together, how our different personalities are, all of these things. But yeah, that's what happens in 7 years. And we haven't even made, you know, we haven't really, I wouldn't say we've made it. Do you know what I mean?
I guess to end it then, is there any kind of advice that you want to give young people out there right now, as we are hopefully coming out of COVID and lockdowns and all this kind of jazz? Any kind of words of wisdom that you want to hand down to them?
Yes. Well, I have an actionable bit of advice that might be helpful for them. When it comes to like actually finding a job, like this is the advice I always give people, like follow the money, like because it is a logic game, like companies, because like, that's the biggest question, right? Young people, they'll be like, how do I find a job? And everyone tends to apply for the same companies, but actually like 70% of jobs that exist are on the hidden job market. They're not being advertised. And so it's finding those hidden jobs. And the way you can do that is by finding companies that have just had a lot of money, because when you get a lot of money as a company, you spend it on people. Like that's all you spend it on. And so it's just like following that logic of being like, okay, but when would companies hire people? When they've got money. When would they get money? When they have investment, or when they've landed a big client or something like that. That's my biggest bit of advice. If you're feeling helpless and you've had loads of job rejections, just try a different tactic and follow the money.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, anything from you?
Well, obviously download the Eric app. Plug. No, but honestly, there are like, so we find articles, videos, podcasts, we have announcements, so we have like the latest internships, apprenticeships. We basically find everything for you and kind of organize it on the Eric app. So it's kind of just saving you time basically than like looking for it yourself. But other bits of advice, I'd say that a lot of, we talk to a lot of employers, a lot of recruiters who are in like the talent team. And a lot of them, tell us what it's like when they receive applications and like when they have a job opening. And they always just say that like, if it's a creative kind of role, they honestly don't look for degrees. So like, don't worry if you don't have a qualification. Obviously that's great if you do, but you don't have to. What they're looking for is just that you're passionate about that particular role, because it's so obvious when someone's copied and pasted their CV or like, just changed the name of the company. And like, so just take a little bit of care of like, just adding in like a little bit, like just basically stroke the company's ego, just to make sure it, you come across as though you actually know their name and you know what they do. But also they just want to see that you've done stuff to show that you're passionate about that role. And again, it doesn't need to be, you need exact experience of what the role is. But if it is literally like you started your own podcast over a lockdown, or you started a YouTube series, anything that just shows that you haven't just sat there and done nothing and applied yourself to something else, that honestly goes a long way. And like, if you just think about it from the recruiter side, like they just have to sift through application after application, like just even put something in there random, like a joke or something, I don't know, just something to make you stand out. It really honestly does it. So you don't have to follow just the normal way. Like we hate CVs and like, why do they make them so boring? Like, but you honestly don't need to follow that. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get the job, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And we've come to the end of another Tern Heads video. So we hope you've enjoyed it and we hope you've learned something new. Please make sure to share and like and comment, share it with your friends, your colleagues. And thank you so much to Mae and to Sam from Eric. Make sure you check out the Eric app as well. I'll put all the links below in the comments so you can easily kind of click onto those. And thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.